Joining me now, Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher of California. Congressman Rohrabacher, thanks for being here. So now we have Sessions facing calls to resign from Meadows and Jordan over the Russia probe. You and others, I know, are angered over his latest action on marijuana. Does Sessions need to resign?
Well, let me put it this way. The American people and now are getting a taste of what people in Washington have known over this last year, and that is Jeff Sessions betrays the people who have had faith in him, and faith in him to do his job, and faith in him not to succumb to pressures from the outside, like from CNN and other news bureaus, to try to do their bidding. And this is when he recused himself from this whole Russia thing. He knew he was setting in motion the establishment of a special prosecutor, and a special prosecutor, as happens in Washington, we understand, is just giving unlimited power to someone to go after you. And not just you, but to go after anybody they want to go after. And you don't do that unless there is some really tangible reason for that. And Jeff Sessions had no real reason to recuse himself.
So does he need to resign?
Well, you know, I think he's I can't call that myself. All I can tell you is that people have a legitimate right. The president has a legitimate right to say that he was betrayed, just like Jeff Sessions betrayed us.
So you don't want to answer that question, it sounds like.
This issue was supposed to be about cannabis. But let me just note, because the other day,
we'll
what
talk about
Sessions
cannabis
did.
For sure. I definitely plan to get to that, but this is obviously news of day real fast. On the issue of Sessions' involvement in the Russia investigation, that leads us really to the New York Times reporting that the president ordered the White House counsel to urge Sessions not to recuse himself, in fact, from the Russia investigation. And now some are saying that could be obstruction of justice. Is it?
Well, that's exactly why you don't want a special prosecutor. Here you have a special prosecutor who's set in motion to try to find collusion between Trump, the Trump campaign, and the Russian government, all right? And now it's obstruction of justice about the conversations had about that. This is just why you don't want a special prosecutor, because it's making this into a felony, because there's no restrictions on special prosecutors at all.
Let me remind you, the special counsel is as a Republican who served under both Democrats and Republicans and was appointed as an FBI director by a Republican president. When you talk about no reason for recusal, forgive me in all due respect, other legal minds have suggested that Sessions did the right thing. He had to recuse himself.
Okay.
Just a moment. Right. I mean, you have Walter Shaub, who's the former ethics czar, as we know, under President Obama, saying that because Sessions was a member of the Trump campaign, we also heard this from Richard Benveniste in just our last segment, because he was a member of the campaign, he could be a witness involved in the Russia probe, and for that very reason, maybe you should have your guest say a few words. Had to maybe
somebody who's your guest should be able to say a few words. Look, I noticed your last interviews had nobody on the other side of the issue coming in to have your discussion with CNN. Maybe you should give me a chance when you have me on your program to express my opinion, rather than have you try to refute every point that I make. Let the public decide some of these things. And in terms of what's going on with the special prosecutor, it is exactly why the president should have been concerned. Now we have a situation, the special prosecutor is supposed to look at a collusion between the Donald Trump administration and the campaign and the Russian government, all right? And instead now they're getting into, was his reaction to this, was some words he said to somebody obstruction of justice? This special prosecutor has only come up with a couple of things, and they all happened before the election, before there was an election. Manafort, who the special prosecutor has indicted and gotten to agree to some sort of a plea bargain, He's been looked at for something he did before he had any association with Trump.
Paul Manafort hasn't pleaded guilty.
That's why
you don't want.
That's why you don't want to have.
Papadopoulos have pleaded guilty.
Okay, that's why you don't want to have a special prosecutor. And please, you might let me make my point and
you did. I just have to make sure that we
before you
correct the
interrupt
facts.
me in order to try to refute me. This isn't a news operation. This is what the president's upset about. He's not getting a fair share from you and from the other media. And we have things like this that will try to build into something sinister has happened. Oh, he had a conversation because he was upset that Jeff Sessions recused himself and thus laid open everybody to unlimited investigation and innuendos like the ones we're hearing today.
Okay. Well, I think that the jury's still out whether there was obstruction. The jury's still out whether there was collusion. I'm not Robert Mueller. We'll let Robert Mueller make the conclusion.
Who's out of control. No, there's a special prosecutor.
You made your point on that.
Who's out of control, who's taking his direction from the news media like yourself.
So you do not have confidence in Robert Mueller?
No, I don't have confidence in Robert Mueller. I don't have confidence that special prosecutors should be brought in specifically to look at specific actions, rather than giving them what happens and what's happened with Robert Mueller, just a universe from what they can select on what they're going to focus on. Here they already have Manafort.
Have you talked to the FBI or Robert Mueller?
Look, the only thing Manafort is now been looked at and exposed for is something he supposedly did long before he had anything to do with Donald Trump.
Okay.
Yet
and
the
he is now suing the special counsel.
Wait a minute, let me finish my point.
No, excuse me, Congressman. Excuse me, Congressman.
Excuse me,
you made that point.
But the people who are listening to this.
May I ask you another question, a follow-up question?
Yeah,
because
you can interrupt
Paul
me again.
Manafort is pushing back on.
You can interrupt me again. Go right ahead.
Paul Manafort is pushing back on that himself, and we have reported on this very program about his lawsuit against the special counsel right now, and as well as the Justice Department for the appointment of the special counsel and his authority. So that we have talked about. But I'm curious if you yourself have talked to the FBI or Robert Mueller's team, because I know you have gone before the Senate Intelligence Committee to talk about your contacts with Russia, your meetings with Russians, meetings with WikiLeaks leader Julian Assange as well. Have you talked to Mueller's team as well? Have you been interviewed?
I have talked to everybody who wants to talk to me. I'm an open book, and it's just the innuendos like this. Oh, I noticed that you said, one of your guests, I guess, said that somebody had been indicted, twice, and that was supposed to mean that he's a bad guy. Well, people can be indicted for anything, especially if there's a special prosecutor. And yes, I am an open book to everybody, and I have spoken to everybody who wanted to talk to me.
Do you think it's okay to lie to the FBI?
Look, the answer is no. It's not good to lie to anybody. It's also not good to interrupt people when they're trying to make a point, when you're a news person.
I apologize if you feel like I've interrupted you for that. I mean no disrespect, sir. Have you yourself interviewed with Robert Mueller?
No disrespect. No disrespect. You don't respect Trump. You don't respect people who disagree with you politically. And that's why the news media, which has an agenda, should drive special prosecutors. You don't want a special prosecutor unless he's looking at a specific issue. That's when you do it. And now we've already seen Manafort. Here he is, having had to face this onslaught of things that had nothing to do with Trump's collusion with Russia.
Okay.
So,
excuse me, Congressman.
Tell me why people are upset with special prosecutors.